and those that is best left to a professional. We all know who this guy is, at least I hope everybody knows who this is. This is Peter Pan. And what makes him special, other than the fact that he can fly, is the other specialty he has is he never grows old or ages. John Pinus, who is the director of gerontology at USC, refers to the houses that we live in as Peter Pan houses, because the way he sees it, they've been designed and built for people who are never going to age or grow old. So let's take a look at some of the features that make up a Peter Pan house. Steps leading to the entry doors, minimum, if any, roof protection from the elements at the entry door, narrow and steep interior stairs, narrow interior doors, passageways and hallways, small kitchens, tight bathrooms, washer and dryer located in the basement in some of the older homes, two-story home with all the bedrooms located on the second floor, and an adequate amount of natural and artificial lighting. I'm willing to bet that at least one or two of these items could probably be found in your home. So, I'm sure we all wish we could be Peter Pan, but unfortunately that's not how it works. So I'd like to share with you some fun facts. By age 30, your body has reached peak functioning. By age 35, bones start to shrink in size and density. Also by age 35, muscles and joints begin to lose strength, endurance, and flexibility. By age 40, eyes weaken, close-up vision starts to blur. A 60-year-old needs 3 times more ambient light to see than a 20-year-old. By age 65, 1 in 3 people have some degree of hearing loss. I fall into that last category. These changes result in bones break more easily, slowed and limited movement, reduced reflexes and coordination, difficulty with balance, diminished peripheral vision, and need for hearing device. And by the way, if you're wondering who the men and women are in the photos, that's my mom and dad. Now, this is where I usually ask people to raise their hands if they've ever come across the term aging in place. I will make the assumption that everybody is raising their hands. So, but for that maybe 1 or 2 person that hasn't raised their hands, I will define what aging in place is. It is basically the ability to live in one's home and community in a safe, independent, and comfortable manner, regardless of age. And I always want to underline that, regardless of age, income, or ability. So aging in place is our objective. Now, here's another term, universal design. Again, I would ask people to raise their hands and let me know how many have heard this term. I find that usually about half the audience has run across this term. For those of you, again, who are not familiar with this term, I'll explain it to you here. It is the design and composition of an environment being either a building or landscaping, or a product, so it can be accessed, understood, and used to the greatest extent possible by all people, regardless of their age, size, ability, or disability. Universal design is not a special requirement for the benefit of only a minority of the population. That is covered in the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it focuses strictly on people with specific disabilities. Mary Jo Peterson, who is who's an aging in space specialist and has been involved with universal design and aging in place for a number of years, I feel has a really good way of explaining what universal design is. She explains it as universal design strives to support the lifestyle we wish to live through convenience and support in subtle and beautiful ways. When it's done right, you know it's there. And when it's done right, you don't know it's there until you benefit from it. So basically, what universal design is what architects, interior designers, landscape architects, and product designers use. There's several different guidelines that we follow, which I don't have the time to go to explain with this seminar. But universal design is how we get to aging in place. Aging in place is our objective. Universal design is how we get there. So now that we've kind of done a little bit of a background, what we're going to focus on now is we're going to explore what is wrong with our houses. And we're going to focus on 6 different areas, kind of the main entry, the kitchen, stairs, bathroom, 2-level living, and other things. By addressing what's wrong with our houses, we can explore ways to make your home home fit. So we're going to start with the main entry. So the first thing we want to do is get to the front door. If you look at the lower right corner photo, you'll see that there's a number of steps you have to go up, and then there's a landing, which is actually kind of short landing to get to the front door. And also, in addition to that, you have an overhang that's just about maybe 2 feet over the entry door. It doesn't give you a whole lot of protection. The same thing can be seen in the upper left corner of that Rambler house. Again, a couple of stairs to get to that, and then very little, if any, covering from the elements. Up in the upper right corner is very typical, having a regular doorknob at the entry door itself. And then at the lower left corner, you'll see that once you hit the landing, you'll notice that you still have anywhere from 2 to 7 inches to step up to get into the actual floor of the house itself. So these are all obstacles that need to be addressed. So the first way is to see if we can go with a walkway. A walkway is just basically a sidewalk with a gentle slope up to the front door. And if you've got, I would say, between 18 inches from where your floor is to the house to grade level, is where you can incorporate a walkway. Ideally, the slope or the pitch is for every 1 foot of rise, you go back 20 feet. So for 18 inches, if you have an 18-inch rise maximum, you would be technically need about 30 feet of run to make that a comfortable walkway. What's nice about a walkway, again, is if you're worst case scenario in a wheelchair, or if you need to use a walker, or if you're a young couple with a baby in a stroller, again, it makes it quite easy to get up to the front door. And you can see by these 3 examples ways that you can handle that. Now, anything that's greater than 18 inches, you would probably consider using a ramp. And there's 3 different locations that you could consider. The front door access is generally the main, is where most people put their ramps that we've probably seen. Being that the entry door is usually 36 inches wide, which would accommodate someone who's in a wheelchair. Obviously, in a lot of cases, you can see where the ramp is just kind of thrown together and doesn't really coordinate well with the house. That top photo shows a nice way of being able to make that transition up to the entry door and coordinate it with a small porch. Another example is down at the bottom, when you might have a detached garage, and you might have that's kind of in the rear of the house, so you might consider incorporating a ramp with the patio deck. And then the third one is, and if you have a 2-car garage attached to the house, if you're willing, able to give up a garage, a car stall, then you can incorporate a ramp in that location as well. So basically, for a ramp, the kind of slope or roof pitch, or pardon me, pitch that you're looking at is, again, for every 1 foot of rise, you want to go back 12 feet. So again, depending on if it's 24 inches or greater, you'd have to go back 12 feet for every foot. One thing to consider if you go with a garage access is you want to make sure that the door, again, most people incorporate ramps when they're having to use a wheelchair. If that is the case, you want to make sure that the door going into from the garage would be able to accommodate the width of a wheelchair. If not, you might have to increase the size of that door. They're generally about 2 foot 8 inches, which for a regular standard wheelchair would be able to get in there. And then the other side of that door, on the interior side, you want to make sure that you'd be able to make a turn in that in a wheelchair as well. Now the entry porch. So we're getting close to the front door now. So again, what you want to have is you want to have a minimum 5 foot by 5 foot landing, and then you want to be able to transfer landing to a 5 foot by 5 foot overhang. So when you get into that area, you're covered from the elements, so you can take your time to unlock the door to be able to get access into it, whether you're holding groceries or whatever you happen to be doing. Now, a lot of cities now, I would imagine in Duluth they might have a variance for it. I don't know about some of the smaller communities up in the northern part of Minnesota, but down in the Twin Cities area, many of the cities have actually have a ordinance in their codes that allows for porches to encroach into the setback line. If you'll notice, most homes are always in a line. When you look at them in the street, they're all pretty much in a line. And that's because there's usually a front yard setback that's anywhere from 30 to 35 feet, depending on the jurisdiction. So anything that encroaches that in the past would require a variance. And the cities are recognizing, especially with the older homes, that there really isn't that much protection for a porch. So they've incorporated in their ordinances to actually dictate a size of a porch that you can have to be able to get that protection you need from the front door. If you look at the lower bottom photo, you'll see a picture of a porch that project that I had done in Edina a number of years ago, which incorporates this idea. The biggest thing you need to know about the porch is they cannot be enclosed. In other words, you can't have a screen porch or make it a 3-season porch. It must be open to the elements on all 3 sides. One other thing I want to point out on the picture on the upper right corner is if you'll notice the large numbers for the address. You want to make sure that you have large enough numbers that should you need an emergency vehicle come to your home, that it's easy for someone to be able to see the numbers to the residence. If you can light it, if you can have it lit up as well with a light source, that makes it even better. So now we're up to the entry door and we're about ready to walk into the home. Now, what I mentioned earlier is usually a lot of the landings have got where you still have to step up anywhere from 2 to 7 inches to get into the house itself. What you want to do is you want to make sure that that landing is at the exact same elevation or exact same height as the floor of the house. You do not want to have any bump or step that you have to step over. And by having them even, what you use is what they call as low zero clearance threshold, whereas the threshold is still able to repel any water, but it only has a lip that's not greater than 1/4 of an inch. So this makes it easy, again, if you have to use a wheeled device, whether it be a wheelchair or a walker, you can roll over it easily without it catching, or again, if you're having a step, it's just walking into it, you're able to step over without any difficulty. And then to the far left, upper and lower photos, you'll see just you might wish to consider, and I'm sure maybe most of you have already, have changed your doorknob to a lever handle knob, which just makes it much easier to be able to get in and out of a door. I mean, we've all used them in commercial buildings, so no need to explain how they work. So now we're inside the house. So let's take a look at the kitchen and some of the things that we come across in our current kitchens. We'll start at the upper left corner and we'll go clockwise. So the first photo you'll see is having to do with lighting. Very typically, or especially with the older homes, you'll have maybe one light fixture centered in the ceiling of the room, and then maybe you might find another light source over the kitchen sink. And then if you have any light, any natural light into the kitchen, it's usually a window, again, that's over the sink. In the middle, I think we've all had this problem at least once or twice, where trying to retrieve something from an upper cabinet can be like trying to climb Mount Everest. And then the photo to the right is basically, if you'll notice when you open up your upper cabinets and lower cabinets for that matter, where you have drawers, you'll notice they open up, just a little bit more than 90 degrees, but then that's pretty much it. So if you're trying to retrieve something from it or putting something into the upper or lower cabinets, it can be kind of difficult, or you might have to kind of do a little bit of gymnastics to get that something in or out of the upper cabinet or lower cabinet. The lower right photo is just a picture showing knobs on the doors and drawers. The lower middle photo, basically, again, trying to retrieve things from the lower cabinets. Sometimes, most times, you have to get on your hands and knees to try to retrieve something. And especially if you've got a corner cabinet, you end up having to get in your hands and knees and stick your head back into into that area to try to retrieve something. So those are generally the items that you usually use only once or twice a year. And then lastly, the kitchen sink. A standard kitchen sink you'll find is generally about 11 inches deep, and then has your typical faucet that we've all seen, at least, and probably most of us still have, and with a separate hot and cold lever. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the sink and the lever faucet. Starting with the sink, in the upper right corner, instead of going with a 11-foot deep sink, you might you want to consider going with a 5 to 5.5 inch deep sink if you're looking to remodel. And the other thing you want to do is you want to have the drains located more towards the rear of the sink versus the center of the sink, which again is more typical. By doing that, if you go to the upper middle photo, you can see where you have an opportunity to get the plumbing more towards the back. And then by eliminating that little 4-inch shelf, that's just a kind of follows through from the toe kick on the outside, by eliminating that and just taking your floor finish into that area, and then by going with some kind of a covering to hide the disposal and the plumbing drain and such. Now you have an area where you can actually grab a stool and you can sit in front of the sink and use the sink to whether it be washing dishes or cleaning, washing vegetables or what have it. But now at least you're able to go in front of the sink versus having to sit alongside of the sink or have to stand up. Now, as far as the faucet is concerned, as you can see in the the lower right photo is a typical faucet that we see quite often, and you just want to eliminate the separate hot and cold faucet for the lever handle, which makes it easier as we get older with arthritis and what have you. It just becomes easier to adjust the water level from hot and cold. And then, and if you look at the lower, now if you go to the lower middle photo, being that we've gone with a from 11 inches to 5 inches, what you'll need to consider is going with a gooseneck faucet versus the standard faucet to the right. Basically being if you have a deep pot that you need to fill water in, you got to make up that difference that you've lost in 5 feet. So a gooseneck faucet works quite well to be able to get that larger pot and fill it. Again, also notice that there's a single lever to work the hot and cold water. Now, if you go to the upper right, upper left and middle photo, is the kitchen and bath industry is getting very savvy, and they're starting to take products that we are come accustomed to using in the commercial industry, especially in the restrooms, where we have motion censored faucets that turn the water on and off. They are introducing that same type of products for the kitchen, for residential kitchens. If you look at the one in the middle, is very typical. Again, it can be activated either by using a sensor, by a motion sensor, or by touch. And then the upper left, you'll see that they've even got some faucet manufacturers. You can turn the faucet on and off by your foot. If you go all the way down to the bottom, I thought this was kind of interesting. This is a third product device that replaces the nozzle from your faucet, and it has an LED light in it, which will indicate either red, green, or blue, indicating what temperature the water is coming out. So you may turn on the water and then get distracted, you've got something on the stove that you need to put at a lower temperature, and in the meantime, you forgot what the temperature is. If you come back, if you see that the water's hot and it's indicating red, you know it's hot, and you can make an adjustment to it. So anyway, again, there's a lot of different products out there that are available for the residential faucets and for sinks. Kitchen lighting. As far as I'm concerned, I do a lot of cooking in my home as well. So as far as I'm concerned, when I cook, especially in the wintertime, I turn every light on that I can find to get to get it as bright in there as possible. Kitchens always seem to lack enough lighting. So if you are remodeling your kitchen, I would recommend to just load your ceiling up with as much lighting as you can afford. Also, what you want to do is you want to have task lighting that is directed directly onto the countertop. So when you're doing a task, whatever that may be. Now, again, if you're remodeling your kitchen, obviously you would want to do a hard wire as far as lighting that would be attached to the underside of your upper cabinets. Now, you may be in a situation where you're going, well, I'm not going to remodel my kitchen, but I definitely need some additional lighting, task lighting. One thing there's a lot of products that are out there that you can purchase that can be adhered to mechanically or through tape, that are battery operated LED lights that you can use for task lighting. Another source I've seen that you can actually have task lighting that fits underneath the upper cabinets that you can plug directly into an outlet. I'm not a big fan of that personally, only because you'll see you're always looking at a cord hanging down from the upper cabinet, and plus it uses up. It would require using up one of your sockets from your outlet. As far as if you have an island, again, even though it's good to have lighting in the ceiling, you might want to consider going with some pendant lighting that brings that light down closer to the island and to the light source for, again, to use as task lighting. We'll talk a little bit about base and upper cabinets. We'll start up at the upper cabinets. If you go all the way to the upper right, you'll see that, again, there are third-party products that are available. That in this particular one, the shelves actually work off of a hinge, so you can grab it and bring it down towards you to be able to put things onto or put onto the countertop, or to take things from the countertop and relocate them back onto the shelf and then put them up and out of the way. In the upper middle one, earlier I talked about how drawers usually open up a little bit more than 90 degrees. Well, this middle photo is what they call a 160-degree hinge. So what it does is allows that door to get completely out of your way, to be able to make it a little bit easier to transfer things in and out of whether it be your upper cabinet or your lower cabinet as well. And then if we go down, we'll talk about the base cabinets. We'll start actually at the lower left corner. One of the things that I found when I was doing some research, regardless of the price point, from base cabinets, from right off the shelf, out of the box and installation, all the way up from semi-custom to custom cabinetry, what the kitchen industry has recognized is the importance of using pull-out drawers versus having doors with shelving. The drawers are nice because it can contain more, contain pots and pans without them falling off the shelf. And again, the idea of it's you're taking something, you're pulling it towards you versus having to get on your hands and knees to have to retrieve something. From there, we're going to shift all the way to the right, lower right. And again, that troublesome corner space, that kind of that dead space that becomes difficult to use. Again, there's different third-party products that are out there that take advantage of that open space. And again, they have shelves that are available that can pull out, or they have like even a circular dolly that can be swung around so you can get at things more easily. In the lower middle, where you have cases where you have a drawer instead of a door, pardon me, instead of a drawer, you want to make sure that you have shelves that can be pulled out. So again, it becomes easier to retrieve items from the shelf, again, pulling them towards you versus having to get on your hands or knees to retrieve something to put onto the countertop. One more thing I want to mention, if you go all the way to the left, now granted this is a more custom item, but the example there is I had a client she was very petite. She was all of 5 feet. So the upper, getting it to the upper cabinets or even working on the countertop became a little bit more of a challenge for her. So what we did is we took that 4-inch kick space, that 4-inch toe kick, and we actually were able to create like a step. So all she had to do is tap it with her foot, and then hydraulically the stair would come out, so she could actually step on it to make it easier to get to the upper cabinets and to lower and to the countertop to use. As far as the countertops, now again, if you're remodeling your kitchen, you're tearing everything out, and what you want to consider doing is in the industry, countertops are generally 36 inches high. That's the industry standard. However, if the opportunity provides, you might want to consider having a area that's of a countertop that is maybe 30 inches high, which is a basically tabletop height. So again, maybe if it's open underneath, you can get a chair underneath there so you can sit down and again do some kind of work on that countertop space versus having to stand up. And then also you might want to have an area where you can raise it up to maybe 42 inches plus. And like that, I mean, a lot of homes that you'll see, that's generally where they'll have eating bar area. But it also works out nice if you have somebody who's taller and wants to help out, there's a countertop space that they can stand and work on that space as well. So you might want to consider, or at least consider the opportunity when you're remodeling to see if I can get, if you can incorporate, hey, can I get different height cabinets, countertops in there to make it more friendly and usable for myself. Now, another thing you want to consider is you want to make sure that your countertop and your floor colors are not the same. You don't want them white. You don't want to have a white countertop and a white floor, or any color variation of that. You don't want them to be the same. You want to make sure that they're unique enough and separate enough in color that if you're not paying attention, you're trying to transfer something from one countertop to another countertop, and if you're in a hurry and not paying attention, you might potentially miss where the edge of the countertop is if the colors are too similar. So you want to make sure that you can contrast that. Pardon me. Now that we've added all this extra lighting into our kitchens, you want to make sure that both the countertop and the floor surface have a non-glare finish. You do not want to have a polished marble or any kind of a surface, whether it's cultured stone or what have you, that would reflect light and provide glare. The same goes for your floor surface. You want to go with a matte surface countertop and a matte floor area. Now, another thing you want to consider, and I don't care whether you're using ceramic tile, if you're using luxury vinyl tile or sheet vinyl, whatever you're using, or wood, you want to make sure that the floor surface is slip resistant. Ideally, you want to have a coefficient of friction that is 0.60 or higher. Again, what you want to do is, if you're looking for flooring, is just talk to the floor retail person and have them assist you in as far as showing you what surfaces, what products that they have available that are slip resistant. And if you can get it at 0.60 or higher, that makes it even better yet. So that covers that. So now we're going to move on to into our appliances. For the appliances, you want to consider, or typically, pardon me, I'm jumping ahead. I'm going too fast for myself. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for everybody else here. Typically, what you know, it's not unusual to see a kitchen where you have a refrigerator where you might have the freezer located at the top. You'll have a cooking range that very typical to have the control knobs located at the back of the range. Also having a microwave oven that's directly above the range. And then to your left, a typical standard 24-inch wide dishwasher in one of the base cabinet locations. So, what's actually a better solution? Let's start with the microwave oven, of all things. The best location for a microwave oven, believe it or not, is on your countertop. It makes it easier. What you're doing is you're making more of a horizontal transfer from the microwave oven to the countertop. So that's ideal, your best location. What you don't want is where we typically see microwave ovens, and that's over your cooking range. So anyway, if you have limited countertop space, you can't afford to give up the real estate, then what you want to do is you want to consider maybe locating it at one of the upper cabinet locations. You need about 14 inches wide, plus or minus, depending on what you're using the microwave for, and the location is about 54 inches off of the floor. Again, it makes it more comfortable. It is up in the air, but again, you're making more of a transfer down into the countertop space, and at least it's away from the cooking range. And in this particular example in the middle here, what they did was they actually incorporated it and did an appliance garage and meshed it with the putting the microwave there. If you go all the way to the left, this is a project that I did for a client where and I'll get to that, to the dishwasher in a moment, but again, where the microwave and the dishwasher space share an area together, again making the transfer from the microwave onto the countertop a little bit easier. And in this example too, you can see where there's a little bit of a countertop space where you can make a transfer. You can set the hot dish on that before you transfer it to the countertop. At the lower right, I noticed you probably have seen this in homes in the past anyway, on the parade of homes, where they'll locate the microwave oven in the base cabinet, which really doesn't do you any good because if you have your typical microwave oven, you still have to get on your hands and knees to be able to open up the door, which opens either to your left or to your right to get at something. So you're still having to reach in and get it. It works great if you're a small kid, a small child making popcorn, but for an adult, becomes a little bit more difficult to use. So the kitchen industry, being as smart that they are, they've come up with a universally designed product where the microwave oven is a drawer. So again, it's the idea that you can open up the drawer, set your plate in there, close it, cook it in the microwave, and again pull it out and then put it onto the countertop. I'm noticing that there are more and more product manufacturers that are coming out with this type of design, and I noticed that the price point is coming down quite a bit. Granted, it's never going to come close to the countertop microwave oven. That if you don't need if you don't need a professional level microwave, if you don't find yourself using a microwave other than maybe to boil water or to heat something up quickly, a standard $150 microwave oven is going to be far cheaper than the one with the drawer. So anyway, again, some things that you can consider for the microwave. Now, as far as stove controls, very simply, if you're looking to replace your appliances, you want to have a cooking range or a cooktop where the controls are located at the front, not the back, for the simple reason that, again, you've got, if you're cooking something and you got a pot or a pan that you're heating up, if you have to change the temperature or you're trying to turn something on, if you're not paying attention, you could possibly bump the pot or the pan and scald yourself. So really want to have the knobs located at the front. And if you go all the way to the left, another product that's available either as a cooktop or a range, and maybe I'm sure some of you have come across it, maybe you haven't, is an induction cooktop. Which is really nice about this is because it works off of a magnet. So basically, if you take a pot or a pan immediately off of that and were to touch your hand on the range, on the cooktops, you will not scald yourself. It's cool to the touch because of the magnet. The caveat to this particular product is that you have to purchase all of your pots and pans would have to be able to be magnetized. So if you've got copper pots and pans or stainless steel, I don't believe that they would work. You'd have to get, I think it's a steel only types of pots and pans. Also, one thing is if you have a pacemaker, you definitely do not want to have this product in your home because the magnet messes with your pacemaker. Dropping down to ovens now, if you go to the lower left corner there, if you have a built-in oven, what you want to do is you want to make sure, as you can see in this example, when you open up the door, that it is at the same level as the countertop. Again, it just makes it easier to transfer items from the oven to the countertop versus having to lift it, pull it out and reach down and to grab it in your more typical type of cooking ranges that you have. And, and then if you go up the two middle ones to your right, the middle and the far right one, there again, the kitchen industry is creating appliances for the residential industry that are, again, have either French doors, which is very typical in commercial kitchens, or a single door. So again, it becomes more easier to be able to retrieve things. Now you can get in front of it to retrieve things from and put things into the oven. Refrigerators. Basically, the only thing I need to tell you about refrigerators, you either want to have a side-by-side, a French door refrigerator where freezers on one half, refrigerators on the other half, or you want to have the freezer at the bottom versus at the top. I'm sure we've all had the top freezer at least one point in our life where you open it up and things come flying out at you if they're not, if you throw something in there and they're not secured to or nicely put in place on the upper shelves. So basically, that's all I have to say about refrigerators. What brand style you use is up to you. Dishwashers. Again, what's happening is on the upper photos, the kitchen industry has come up with dishwashers that are drawers. Instead of your door that pulls down, they're drawers that can pull out. And you can see through the examples, they can either stack or they can go on either side of a kitchen sink. What's nice about this is, especially if it's just maybe a couple just living in the home and you only need, you don't have to use all of the dishwasher, maybe half the dishwasher, one of the drawers will suffice for the dishes that you may generate. Now at the lower, if you're saying that's fine, Gene, but I'm really in love with my single door dishwasher, I really don't want to get rid of it. You can see that there's different ways of handling that. One way of handling it, if you look at all the way to the right, is you want to consider, or I should say backing up, you want to consider raising that that dishwasher 9 to 15 inches from the floor. That's what you're trying to achieve. So the example all the way to the right is you can see where they went with a 9-inch toe kick versus your typical 4-inch toe kick. I didn't talk about this with the base cabinets. However, they do have base cabinets that work in kitchens with a 9-inch toe kick. So it's something that you may want to consider. What's nice about the 9-inch toe kick, again, even for the base cabinet, it raises everything up and makes it easier to retrieve things. You don't have to bend down as much. But getting back to the dishwasher, what's nice in this particular example, they actually integrated it with a eating bar, so at the same height. So they took the additional 6 inches and the 4 inches and added it to the height of the to the dishwasher. In the middle is just another example of the dishwasher located higher with, they put some shelving up above that. And again, all the way to the left is the example of that kitchen that I designed for a client where it worked in coordination with the microwave oven. Moving on. So now we're done with the kitchen. Question. What is the leading cause of injury-related deaths among people 65 and over? I'm sure everybody's raising their hand and everybody's probably come to the same answer. Falls. Stairs are probably generate the most falls throughout the house. And so in my opinion, they are the most dangerous item in our homes. So what do we typically see where we have stairs? It's not unusual to find stairs that where the treads are the same color as the floors and the landings. And in the middle there, again, which is typical, is you have one handrail on one side of the stairs as you go up or down the stairs. And then all the way to the right, typically you'll have a light fixture that's located at the top of the stairs and one that's located at the bottom of the stairs. So these are the types of things that you'll typically see in your home. So what can we do to make our stairs more safe? Let's start with the handrail. You ever notice that when you go into a commercial building that there's a handrail on both sides of the stairs? That's because it's a code requirement. For residential, the code only requires a handrail on one side of the stairs. So if you have an open handrail, as you're going up, like that one example to the right there, they won't put a handrail on the other side because they said the guardrail serves as the handrail. But ideally, what you want to do is you want to add that second handrail. Boy, does that make a difference. Most stairs are generally 36 inches wide in a residential, maybe 42 inches wide in some of the newer homes. But if you consider it when you reach out with your hands, it's still, you're not stretching it so far out that you can grab both the handrail and the guardrail as you go up and down the stairs. It makes a difference. My parents had a house where they had a tuck under garage. So the only way they could get into to the car was they had to go down a flight of stairs. As my mother aged, it became more and more difficult for her to go up and down the stairs. It got to the point where she was literally having to hang on to the handrail, to the one handrail with both of her hands to go up and down the stairs sideways, which in my opinion was not safe. By adding that handrail, she was now able to grab both the handrails and was able to go up and down the stairs safely. So it's an easy fix, and in my opinion, there's no reason why you should not do that. Now, getting back to now, another thing to consider is contrasting the stair steps, the treads, and landing colors. You want to again distinguish between the treads and the landings and the floor. If they're all the same color, again, as we get older, if we're not paying attention, again, we may not know where that last step is going to, meeting the floor or the landing. And then if we hit it wrong, we could fall and we can trip and hurt ourselves. So you want to consider, regardless of what you do, a lot of different ways you can handle that, but make sure that you contrast the colors. Now, lighting. Like I said, I think it's funny. They'll put lighting at the top of the stairs and at the bottom of the stairs, but they don't put the lighting where you actually need it, where the stairs are themselves as you go up and down. Because with the lighting at the top and bottom, all they do is cast a shadow, and it becomes difficult to see the stair treads as you go down or up. So if you're remodeling your house, or you're doing an addition to the house and maybe relocating the stairs, what you want to do is go with what I call either theater lighting, as you can see at that lower right photo, or if you can get more creative with the LED lighting now. They've got LED lighting strips that can actually tuck underneath your nosing of your stair tread, which is usually about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So it fits nicely underneath that. So every single step gets lit up, which is I really, really like. Now again, you might say that's great, Gene, but I'm not looking to have my walls torn up so I can get additional lighting in there, hardwired. So what can we do? There are products out there, if you look at the right photo, that you can purchase similar to the task lighting in the kitchen, that work off of what's really nice. They're battery operated, and they can be mechanically applied, or have a tacky back that you can stick onto them. And then they have a motion sensor. And then so what happens is as you approach the stairs, it triggers the motion sensors, and then all the lights, each individual light, depending on how many you put along that stair run, will light up. And then after a minute or two, the lights turn off. So I think that's another feature or another item that you should consider doing. And again, it's something that you can do yourself. I spent some time researching and trying to figure out, what was more safe, carpeted steps or wood steps. And based on my research, I basically came to the conclusion that it really didn't matter. It was almost 50-50 as far as people falling and injuring themselves. So as if you've got carpeted steps, I guess the only thing I would suggest you do is, every once in a while, just literally tug. As go up the stairs and just kind of tug at the carpet to make sure that the carpet is securely fastened to the wood stairs underneath. And if you have wood stairs, as you can see with the examples that I'm showing here, there's a lot of different products that are available that can create non-slip treads, so you don't, again, trip and fall. They've even got a paint, which is a transparent paint that has kind of like a gritty sand to it, or some kind of a grid to it, that you can apply to the tread, again, to prevent you from falling as well. So again, there's a lot of different products out there. Again, something you may wish to consider doing for your home as well. I'm just going to touch on this spend another 10 minutes or so on this subject alone. But again, worst case scenario, say, gosh, I need to have a mechanical means of getting up and down the stairs. I'm sure we're all familiar with stair lifts. You can do them for straight runs. You can do them for U-shaped switchback stairs. You can do from L-shaped stairs. So it's pretty much whatever you need, they can make it available to you. As far as vertical platform lift and residential elevators, they're both available. Vertical platform lifts are short of an elevator, where again, you can use a walker or a wheelchair, and then it just has a gate, and then it can take you up a half a level or a full level need be. There's a product to the right, which I thought was interesting, that is available, that actually, if you're coming from like a garage into the house, you can see that there are stairs, but if you push a button, it actually converts into a platform lift for someone who's in a wheelchair. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then at the lower bottom is a residential elevator. Bottom line is, as far as cost, obviously they're all expensive, but stair lift is going to be your least expensive, and your vertical platform and residential elevator are going to be your most expensive, because not only do you have to purchase the product and have it installed, but then you also have to make the shaft to put the elevator, the vertical platform, into. So it can be quite costly. Now, let's look at the bathroom. Very typical. I'm sure we've all had a bathroom, or maybe we have a bathroom in our home right now, where it's a typical, you've got a tub shower combination, you've got a typical toilet, and then you've got a vanity with a sink in it. And then you have a light fixture, or some, a decorative light fixture that goes above the mirror. So what can we do to make this better? Let's talk about vanity and vanity access and lighting. Again, some things that you might want to consider as far as, again, the ability, maybe instead of standing to use the sink, to be able to maybe sit down and use that sink, or worst case scenario, if you're in a,
Are you there?
in a wheelchair.
Check to see if I need.
And then anyway, so at the upper right, you can see this is a product that you can purchase. It's a one-piece system that can adhere right directly to the wall, that you can sit to, or again, it's wheelchair accessible as well. Then in the middle there shows an example of where, if you wish to hide what's underneath the sink, you have drawers that can fold back, and it can open up and then fold into that space as well. And again, by eliminating that that little 4-inch toe kick that we typically see. Then all the way to the right is an example of where it's just everything's just exposed and it's open. So there's a lot of different ways that you can handle that. And the same thing with the bottom two examples as well. But the bottom two examples, actually, I want to talk about. First one, the lower middle one, is that the first thing I want to talk about is, again, the standard for the industry for vanities is usually 32 inches from the floor, 2 foot 8 inches from the floor. What you're seeing a lot in parade of homes now are 36-inch high vanities, which is the same height as the countertop for your kitchens. Now, what's nice is that, maybe you have a household where one person is tall and the other person is short. So you can see with this example, they actually set one set at the 2 foot 8 height and the other one set at the 36-inch height. So that's something that you can consider doing when retrofitting, if you're remodeling your kitchen. But the other point I want to make too, a better location, instead of having the light above the mirror, you really want to have the light fixture to either side of the mirror. It gives you more even lighting, and it creates less glare and less shadow. So again, as we learned, it becomes more difficult as we get older. Our eyes start to play tricks on us. So two examples of where they've had where lights are more of a sconce lighting fixture versus having a lighting fixture over the mirrors. Let's talk about the tub shower combo and possibly retrofitting a shower. Again, you may have all tubs. If you have a combination tub shower, they're generally 36 inches deep and 5 inches wide. So you might want to still say, I like the combination tub shower. I want to keep that, but I do need to make it more safe. I located a product. It's a little bit difficult to find, but I did find this one where they actually have a seat that is molded into the outside edge of the tub, where you can actually sit on the seat and then lift your feet up and over the tub, and then with grab bars move into help stand up into the tub without, again, having to trip and fall over the 18-inch plus high lip that is typical for a tub. The only caveat to that is you want to make sure that that seat does not interfere with where the toilet is. So you want to make sure you can have access to the toilet and without having to maneuver around that seat. Now, on the upper right, you'll notice that in a situation you might say, I don't need to have that tub. A shower is really all I need. So with you can actually pull that out at your tub shower and put this kit in where you have what they call a zero clearance or low curb shower curb. So usually, again, if you see typical shower pans, or even if you have a custom shower, you have to step up and over anywhere from 4 to 6 inches on a curb to get into the tub. What you want to do is you want to minimize that, ideally to 0, so the floor and the shower pan is at the same level, or 1 to 2 inches maximum stepping up into the shower. Now, if you go at the lower bottom, like I talked earlier about the kitchen, you want to make sure that if you're remodeling your kitchen, you want to go with a non-slip or a slip-resistant bathroom floor. Generally, you'll see a lot of times where instead of the big tile, they go with a smaller tile, like the 1x1 or 2x2 mosaic types of tile, because the grout lines are closer together and create a little bit of traction for you. Plus, again, using a tile product, again, depending on what you use, is you want to make sure you have that slip fraction is coefficient of 0.60. So again, again, it's something you can work out. You don't have to go with the mosaic, but it's important that you make sure that the floor that you are purchasing is non-slip. Grab bars. Now, one thing that's really nice, because universal design and aging in place, this is a concept. This is not a requirement, a code requirement, a government entity that is saying you must do this, you must do that, which you find in the Americans with Disability Acts. They have very strict rules and guidelines that you must follow for handrails, for grab bars. So if you go to any commercial restroom, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They're all standard. But what's nice about residential is that they can take any any shape, form, or size, can be integrated with anything, with a towel, you can see these examples as a soap bar, as a paper dispenser, and then even they've got grab bars that work off of that you can, when you don't need it, it can actually fold up and are parallel with the wall versus having to stick out in the floor area. And there you can see they're all very attractive, and none of them are saying, "Hello, I'm a grab bar." So there's a lot of different ways you can handle it. And so one thing that you consider doing. Let's talk about toilets now as we get into the water closet. Now, the standard in the industry is 15 inches from the floor to the seat. If you don't believe me, go and when you get home, take your tape measure, measure it, and you'll find it's 15 inches. What a raised, what they call comfort height water closet is actually better, about 18 to 19 inches, which is about the same height as a kitchen table chair. So if you sit down in your kitchen table chair and say, "Oh, this feels comfortable to me," that would be the same height as the comfort height water closet. Now, but if you're a petite person, you might say, the 15 inch is perfect for me, and that's totally fine. Whatever, again, the whole idea is to make your home work and function the best for you. We'll talk a little bit about adjustable shower heads. If you go all the way to the right, you'll notice, and maybe you have them in your home right now. So, but it's basically it's a type of shower head that can serve as a handheld shower as well. It generally sits on like a saddle. In this example on the far right, this particular manufacturer actually has it it works off of a magnet. So, but again, it just hooks up to your existing spout and your shower head spout, and it works just fine. In the middle, you might say, I want to have something that's more independent. I can just use a shower head, and if I need to transfer and use that to a handheld, I can just adjust it for the handheld one. So there's those types of shower heads available as well. Now, the one all the way to the left is the one that I actually like, and that I actually will use quite a bit on a home for clients that want to make their homes more aging in place friendly. And what's nice about this is that in addition to it being work as a shower head that sits in a saddle, or that can be you can use that as a handheld shower head. It also works, what's nice is it can be adjusted, as you can see on that vertical bar, to any height. Again, going back to that client that was very petite, being about 5 foot, what happened, her husband was about 6 foot. So when we installed this into their shower, it worked out really, really well, because she could bring down the shower head closer to her height, and then when he needed it, he could raise it up higher for his height. This also works great for the grandkids as far as being able to use that to lower it for them as well. So I think it's a great feature if you're considering remodeling your bathroom. Now, single floor living. Again, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's most homes, especially homes that were built in really up until the 2000s. Most homes were all the bedrooms were located on the second floor, and all the living area was on the first floor. However, what you want to consider is one level living. Now, to achieve one level living, obviously, you need to have the bedroom, a bathroom with a minimum of a shower, and a laundry room, whether it be side by side or a stacked washer and dryer, all on the same level. Now, obviously, if you're adding an addition to your home, that's not a problem. The only thing you want to make sure about is that if you have any hallway, that hallway is a minimum of 42 inches wide, and that all the doors leading into the bedroom or to a laundry room or into the bathroom are 36 inches wide, that you can should you ever need to access it with a wheelchair or a walker in the future. However, if you're trying to retrofit what you have, things you may want to consider. Maybe you have a formal dining room that is rarely, if ever, used. Maybe there's a possibility of converting that dining room into a bedroom. Now, I know that you can buy armoires. You don't have to necessarily put in a built-in wardrobe closet. You can buy an armoire, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, from IKEA or a number of different areas. So you don't have to actually build a wardrobe closet if you don't need one. Another room you might want to consider is if you have an office or a library. Maybe what you can do is by putting a retractable bed, a Murphy bed, if you will, that is built into the wall. So when you need it as an office, the bed is tucked away, and then should you need that bed, when you need that bed, it can just pull down and it can be used as a bedroom as well. So a couple things to consider there. And then for the bathroom, maybe you have a powder room that is already existing. You might want to consider, well, I need to get a shower in there. If I can get a shower somehow, depending on where the powder room is located and how it's configured, of course, maybe there's a way of taking a little bit of space from one room that it might butt up against, whether it be a bedroom or not a bedroom, whatever that space may be. A lot of cases they butt up against a garage. Maybe you can steal a little bit of space out of the garage to add that shower. Even if it's a 3-foot by 3-foot shower, so long as you have a shower there that you can bathe in, that becomes important. And then the laundry room, again, maybe there's a coat closet or there's some space that is available. Maybe you can find a corner in a room that you have that you can create a closet, and maybe you go with a stacked washer and dryer. So just different things to consider when you're, again, to open up your mind and start thinking about how I can if I need to adjust this and make a living, make all one level living, what I can do. Now let's look at some other things. Swing clear hinges. If you don't get anything from my from my presentation today, please pay attention to this. This is a wonderful toy. I love it. I did this for my parents' house and it worked perfectly. A swing clear hinge. Basically, if you'll notice in a typical door, if you look at the upper left, you can see when a door is open, when you take into the hinge and the door thickness into consideration, you may have a 2-foot 6-inch wide door, which is very typical in bedrooms. But you'll notice by looking at that ruler that you really only have about you lose 2 to 2.5 inches of open area as you walk into that bedroom. As you can see to the right, when my mother was using a walker, you can see that how tight it is for her to get to use that walker. She can get in with the walker, but if she's not paying attention, she can rub her knuckles against the jamb. And then I'm not even taking into consideration the doorknob that is extending from the door itself, which even hinders that opening even more. Now, the solution to this, short of, you can go ahead and take that door and make it into a 3-foot wide door, which is fine, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Because you're going to have to remove that door, you're going to have somebody come in and cut your wall, going to have to patch up the wall, have to put in a brand new door, jamb and header, and then hang a new door. It can be extremely expensive. It can cost you $1,000 or more just to put in that extra wide door. A cheaper solution is to go with a swing clear hinge. About this, if you can look at the lower left photo drawing, you'll see where when you open up the door, it takes that door now and takes it completely out of the way, and you capture that 2 to 2.5 inches that you would lose in your normal hinged door. And you can see with the example at the lower right, with my mother going into that room with the exact same, it's a 2'6" door. This is her bedroom door now. The example above was just another bedroom that had a 2'6" door. But with the hinge, with the swing clear hinge, you can see that 2 inches makes a world of difference. Now she's walking into that, she can get into that room, into her bedroom without fear of hitting her knuckles on the jamb or bumping into the door with the walker itself. One thing I also noticed that when my mother ended up in a wheelchair, having to need a wheelchair, my mother was a petite woman herself, so she just needed a standard wheelchair versus the extra wide wheelchair. And believe it or not, we were able to get her in and out of her bedroom with that 2'6" opening. I was shocked that we were able to do that. When we also used that swing clear hinge in the bathroom, which only had a 2-foot wide, a 2'4" door. However, before we used the hinges, she could not use her walker to get into the bathroom. She would have to grab onto the countertop or whatever to be able to get into that bathroom. By again adding the swing clear hinges, even for that 2'4" wide door, she was able to use her walker to get into that bathroom. However, the caveat was we could not get the wheelchair into that space. 2'6" is as close as is as tight as you're gonna be able to get. But anyway, this product, I've seen it at some of the big box stores, home improvement stores. And they were at that time. Each hinge cost, I think, about $12. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on where you shop. But when you consider even at $12, if you have to buy 3 of them, that's $36 compared to $1,000 to actually have to physically change out a door. So something that's worth considering. Now, other door options. We'll start at the top. Again, there are automatic door openers that you can purchase that are either remote control activated or sensor activated as well, so you do not have to necessarily open up a door. In the middle there, pocket doors can sometimes be a little bit difficult with that little latch that they usually have at the edge of the door. This particular client of mine actually found this product where if you push the button that's kind of at the middle there, as you can see at the left, and then if you push the bottom, you can see at the right a little finger hinge comes out, so you can put your finger in there and actually pull out the drawer a little bit easier until you can grab the the recessed hinge on it as well to close the door or to open it, or to close the door, pardon me. And then obviously all the way to the left is a again, our good old lever handle that I recommend you use. Now, door options, things to consider. Let's start at the lower left photo. In a lot of situations, again, you may have a bathroom that, a lot of typical bathrooms, it's not unusual to have them that are usually 5 feet by 8.5 to 8 to maybe 9 foot in depth. They're usually pretty small. And that's very typical. And the door swings in. What you might want to consider doing is to take that door at the very least is to have it swing out into the hallway. What's nice about that is, again, if someone were to fall in the bathroom, they could potentially be blocking that door, so you cannot, you're trying to push in and all you're doing is making a bad situation worse. By having it open up into the hallway, it makes it easier to get to someone who may have fallen. Another two examples, the one in the middle is becoming more and more popular, are what they call barn doors. And again, what I like about this is, and I did this for a client of mine, where all of their doors, all of their bedroom doors and bathroom doors were actually were set in the hallway, so they could actually open and close the doors very easily. And there are locks that you can purchase that work for these types of doors. I didn't show anything in particular here, but there are available for privacy locks. Then obviously the one all the way to the right, which we're all familiar with, are pocket doors as well. Again, a pocket door, again, if you are considering doing an addition to your home to create main level living, if you're a fan of pocket doors, instead of always having to open and close the door, pocket doors is another nice solution that they can slide in and out of the way as well. Carpeting. Really quick, what you want to make sure, again, you want to have something that's a tight woven. You don't want to have plush carpeting. The reason being is, again, as we get older, we start dragging our feet. We don't lift up our feet as much as we do when we were younger. So, well, as you can see, even as a small child, you can see small, baby 1 or 2 years old, walking, and they're not lifting up their feet as much. So if they have plush carpeting, you find them falling down more often. Well, they're resilient and they can bounce right back up. Unfortunately, when you're over 65, get into the 70s and 80s, if you fall down, you don't get up as easily. So going with the plush carpeting works well. Also, especially if you have to use a wheelchair or a walker as well. We did this for my parents' house, and again, my mother had no difficulty using her walker. Now, if you go with a tight, and the other thing you want to make sure is, now that if you go with a tight woven carpeting, you want to make sure you do not have a carpet pad. If you put a carpet pad in there, all you're doing is you're adding that cushion, which again, now it adds more friction if you're using a walker or a wheelchair. Now, at the bottom, again, choosing a color for carpeting, you want to make sure you go with a neutral color, something again that distinguishes your floor from the furniture that you have. As you can see with the one at the right, it's easy to distinguish the furniture. However, if you look at the right, which granted is an extreme example with all the patterns and such, but you can see it becomes a bit more difficult to see the legs of that particular chair. So you want to make sure it's easy to distinguish. Washer and dryer, again, obviously this works for a front loading washer and dryer, not so much where you have a washer that has the lid that's on the top. Again, the preference is up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. However, with the front loading washer and dryer, which is nice, is they come with drawers. Again, raises the washer and dryer up to about 15 inches. So it makes it more, again, you don't have to bend down so much as you're trying to retrieve or put clothes into or take clothes out of a washer or dryer. And again, if you're remodeling or adding an addition to your home and adding a laundry room, if you want to have something that's more built in, you can see with this example here, again, a platform that you want to be, again, about 15 inches from the floor to, again, make it easier to make that transfer. Light switches, a rocker versus a toggle switch. Not that a toggle switch is that difficult, but a rocker just makes it a little bit easier. You can use more, you're having to use a finger to flip it up or to flip it down. You can use the palm of your, the tip of your fingers or the palm of your hand to turn the light on and turn the light off. Just makes it easier to do that. And again, this is something that you can easily do. And then another thing is you can, if you're doing, again, an addition or remodel, and you might want to consider placing the center cover plate at about 36 to 44 inches to the center of the switch cover plate. Another nice thing, and you might want to consider doing, is spending a few extra dollars to have the light switch, even if you want to keep the toggle, but you might want to consider going with a lighted rocker or toggle switch. Again, as you enter the room, it just makes it easier to locate. Now, electric outlets. Per the code says you have to have that electric outlet has to be a minimum of 12 inches from the floor. So a typical outlet will not be greater than 12 inches from the floor. That lower left example is actually what a lot of electricians use. It's called hammer height. They set a hammer, which is about 12 inches, 13 inches, and that's where they locate that box. And they just nail it on there and they're off and running. So that's where that 12 inches come from. However, a better height is 18 to 24 inches. The code doesn't care how high you locate that. It has just a minimum from the floor. So 18 inches makes it much, much easier to plug or to unplug something from the outlet. And that example to the upper left, you can see where they actually located the outlet right next to the light switch. So again, to make it easier to plug, regardless of what it might be, a vacuum cleaner or what have you. Now, one thing I found, which I just thought was interesting, and I wanted to throw them in there, was they have these little outlet adapters that work off of a magnet. So you can plug your whatever it is, your lights, your light fixture, or again, if you're vacuuming or what have you, to this adapter. And then if for any reason, if someone were to trip over it, it comes out of it detaches very easily because it's a magnet, without tripping and falling and hurting yourself. So I thought that was something that was very interesting that I wanted to share with you. Oh, excuse me. We're almost done, folks. Thank you so much for hanging in there. A few more slides. Smart technology. I'm not going to get into this because we spent another 2 hours. Other than to just tell you there's so many devices using your smartphone or using a voice-activated technology to activate your doorbell, your camera, which has a camera built in, temperature control, remote locks, your appliances, and control your lighting. So there's a lot of different things that are available to you. So if you're, that are right out of the box, ready to go to just make your life a little bit more and more easier. So I'll just let that go and let you all figure that out for yourselves and for what you might need or consider needing. Exterior. As far as the exterior, just really quickly, you want to consider going with low maintenance siding, whether that be vinyl siding, metal siding, or a cement board siding, or they have a wood composite siding as well. The latter two, the cement board and the composite board siding, generally you can, The paint is either pre-painted on the surface, or you can paint it on yourself, and they generally last about 10 depending if they're baked on, 12 to 15 years before you have to repaint it. The biggest thing you have to watch out for metal, and for especially for vinyl, is make sure that when you look at the manufacturer, what they have to say about fading. They all say they don't fade, but I found that especially with vinyl, they do fade if you get a more cheaper cheaper grade of vinyl siding. They do tend to fade, especially where it gets a lot of sun. Moving, the next item is low maintenance landscaping. I'm not a landscape architect, so I have no idea what that means, other than there's a lot of, go talk to a landscaping person. There's a lot of stuff available, planting available that you can choose from. My attitude is the less you have to mow, the better it is. So go with carpeted outdoor carpeting, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm a happy camper. Anyway, low maintenance decking. A lot of decking obviously is like 1x, 2x preservative treated lumber that you can stain, but you have to about every so many years, because that does fade and the wood does get beat up, that you have to eventually sand it down and then repaint it. Low maintenance decking is a product similar to the vinyl. It is a composite material that does not need any kind of maintenance. Again, you want to make sure that it generally does not fade, but again, you want to make sure that the color goes all the way through the material to prevent fading. The biggest caveat to low maintenance decking is it is very expensive, and also the decking, the spacing of the deck joists have to be closer together versus your typical 16 inches. I think they have to be about 12 inches with the low maintenance decking. Something that every manufacturer is a little bit different. Lastly, you want to make sure that you have a well-lit walkway and your entry. Whether you hardwire it or it works on a motion sensor, you just want to make it easier, whether it's guests, whether it's emergency people coming to your doorstep, that there's sufficient lighting during the nighttime that it's easy for them to see the walkway to get to the front door, and then the front door is well lit as well. Guess what? We're almost done, folks. Thank you. As Brenda mentioned earlier, the Home Fit Guide, although she will be mailing it to you, you may have some friends or family members that say, wow, this is wonderful. I'd like to get a copy of that. What you can do is, if you go to aarp.org/homefit, you can, right around the center of that particular page, you'll see that you can download the Home Fit Guide, checklists, and no cost, low cost ideas. This is all available. You do not have to be a member of AARP to access and download these items. So I encourage you all to do that.
Thank you so much, Gene. I think you've just given us a lot to think about, whether it is hopefully for our own selves, but also for our clients and things like that. So I really appreciate your sharing your wealth of knowledge with us today. It looks like we had a couple of questions that came in. If you don't mind hanging out for 1 second, we'll grab those. All right. Trina was asking, she said she wasn't seeing any magnifying options rather than standard mirrors, and she was asking if there are some new ones that are available.
If there were any, what kind of mirrors?
Magnifying mirrors rather than just standard mirrors.
You know, that's an excellent question, and a matter of fact, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know, but I promise you, I'm going to put it on my list right now to see if that is available. Generally, because of the weight of the mirrors, if you're going, with a wall mirror, they're generally very heavy. So that's why they're generally use an adhesive that is attached directly onto the wall. But maybe for a smaller mirror, again, that's an excellent question that I don't have an answer for.
We had one other question. Fabiola was asking, what if you live in a hot, humid location and wood decking won't last as long? What other kinds of surfaces could you use for building outside flooring?
For outside,
Yes.
well, outside flooring, as far as probably the thing is in the warmer environments. The nice thing about the composite decking, and it's just kind of a roundabout answer, is it does not get hot, which is generally typical of like a concrete patio. So, so a lot of times I haven't done anything in a hot environment for a number of years. So, but that kind of decking is still being used in that kind of instance. Other than that, other than like a outdoor carpeting or something like that, where it doesn't generate heat, that's kind of what's happening, is not to get the heat from the hot sun onto your feet. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Jean. And I want to thank also everyone who joined us today. We had an incredible response, more than we expected. And so I'm really pleased that we had so many people who are interested. It's hoping that we can get folks thinking about housing for the entire lifespan rather than just for individuals who don't have any challenges, and thinking about themselves, not just the way we are right now, but as ourselves as we individually age as well. So it's not just for our parents and grandparents, but eventually, hopefully we all get to the point where aging is a reality for us. So we all have to start thinking about housing in that way as well.
I'd like to add one thing, if I may. Whether you are a senior in high school or a senior in life, making your home fit through universal design will benefit all who enter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we will leave it with that. Folks, we will be sending out an email with information about accessing the recording of today's session. Folks, if you haven't gotten your hard copy of the booklet yet, you should be watching your mailbox. That will be coming to you. We will be sending that out to you. And as Jean mentioned, if you've got other folks who are interested in it, you can also access and request a copy of that booklet via electronically or as a hard copy of it via the AARP website, just looking up HomeFit. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful holiday season.
Ooh. Is that it?
That is a marathon. That's some serious work.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like I said, I sure hope everybody was able to hang on because I know it's a long one, but actually I'm proud of myself. I got done in about an hour and a half. I usually get completes a little bit longer than that, so hopefully.
I wasn't worried at all. I wasn't worried at all.
I was very worried. But I do hope it's beneficial.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And you and I talked before, and we can talk a little bit more about maybe in the in the spring doing something with the targeted to the realtor audience to get folks both up in this region and also statewide. And I think that'll be a good opportunity also to target those folks who intersect with people at the transition times in their lives.
Yeah, I would really, I would really love to do that Arrowhead remodeling show in Duluth. I mean, that would be such a great venue, to kind of be able to get that out for to people.
Absolutely. Well, we're still in their schedule if things are able to go forward for 2021. So hopefully we'll be able to seize that opportunity as well.
Get those vaccines going.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Brenda,
Well, I will let you go and I'll check back in with you. I'll follow up with you later.
wonderful. And again, Brenda, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure meeting you, and you've been so helpful and supportive of